And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Monday, February 12th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we are going to recap the Super Bowl last night. Chiefs winning 25-22 in overtime over the 49ers, so we'll get into that. Then we will talk about Patrick Mahomes winning his third Super Bowl MVP. We'll get into what's next for the 49ers after their loss to the Chiefs last night. And then we will get into the 2025 Super Bowl odds for each team, and that'll be the final part of the show. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the Super Bowl from last night. So I hope everybody had a good weekend. I hope everybody enjoyed the game, however you spent it. And it got off to a slow start. I know my cousins and I were saying this has Rams Patriots vibes from 2018, 2019. And then one of my friends in our sports chat sent the score of that game, so I was like, oh, I hope we're not heading towards that. But the way it finished off, that was a great Super Bowl. That was a great Super Bowl to look back on. And let's go through the game summary. So the 49ers got the ball to start off the game, and they were driving. They were putting together a great drive, and a lot of McCaffrey, Kyle Juszczyk, even on the first drive as well, was making plays. 18 plays to Kyle Juszczyk, 11 to McCaffrey, an 11-yard run by McCaffrey. They got down into Chiefs territory, and then McCaffrey did something that he doesn't do often, and that's fumble the football. He put the ball on the ground, Chiefs recovered, and no points were scored on that drive. Then the Chiefs got the ball, their first drive of the game, and it was a quick 3-and-out. A 2-minute drive. Pacheco, first play for the Chiefs, -3 yards. 1 yard completion to Travis Kelce. And then on 3rd and 12, Mahomes dumped it off to Jerick McKinnon, who was active for this game. He picked up 8 yards, and the Chiefs had to punt. And Kelce actually only had 1 reception for 1 yard in the first half, which was wild. So then on the next drive, the 49ers, they punted. They started off good. Brock Purdy completed an 18-yard pass to Brandon Ayuk. Then Deebo Samuel ran the football, -2 yards. Back-to-back penalties. And then, that, again, didn't amount to anything. And the 49ers punted. Then the Chiefs punted. And then the 49ers scored the first points of the Super Bowl, getting into field goal range. Well, with Jake Moody, you weren't sure about that. Credit to him, actually, because he had a good game outside of the blocked extra point. But he made a 55-yard field goal to put the Niners up 3-0. And those are the first points scored in the Super Bowl. Then the Chiefs got the ball. They were driving. It looked like they were going to score points. Mahomes hit McCole Hardman for a 52-yard pass play, which I thought was going to get intercepted because there were 2 49ers players there. But Hardman was able to catch it. And then right after that, Isaiah Pacheco fumbled. And what was interesting was on the sidelines, Travis Kelce was, first of all, he was not out for that play. He was on the side for that. And he literally, caught Andy Reid off guard, almost knocked him over, was yelling, it was screaming in his face. And I know a lot of people were complaining about that. Andy Reid said afterwards that Kelce's keeping him young. And Kelce said, I just told him I loved him when they were interviewing him after the game. But, I mean, that was we'll see, if we get the audio for that. But, that was not that did not look like a friendly conversation on the sidelines there. Then, so after that, 49ers punted, Chiefs punted. Then the 49ers went 8 plays, 67 yards, 3.5 minutes of time of possession. Did a little trick play. Juwan Jennings threw it back to Christian McCaffrey, and he took it 21 yards for a touchdown. And then Jake Moody kicked the extra point, and that made it 10-0. And then the Chiefs, they got 3 points before the end of the half. And, so it was 10-3 at the half. Low scoring. Then, the Usher halftime show happened. And then we got back to the game. And the Chiefs, they started off with an interception. Mahomes, first there was a bobbled snap. And then, but the Chiefs were able to recover that. Then there was a 10-yard pass play to Noah Gray, and then Mahomes overthrew. I think he was trying to hit Kelsey on that play, but it got intercepted. But the Niners didn't turn that into points. So the Niners punted, Chiefs punted, Niners punted again. Chiefs kicked another field goal to make it 10-6. That was a Harrison Butker 57-yard field goal. Both teams punted again. But, of course, when the Chiefs punted, the 49ers, they muffed the punt. And the Chiefs recovered that, and literally the first play of that drive, Mahomes connects with Marquez Valdez-Scantling for a 16-yard touchdown, and that makes it 13-10. But then the Niners, this was big. They answered with a touchdown drive of their own 12 plays, 75 yards, 6 minutes of time possession down the field. Purdy making some good plays, and he connected with Juwan Jennings for a 10-yard touchdown. And the Niners were up 16-13 because then Jake Moody's extra point got blocked, which was big because now all the Chiefs had to do was answer with a field goal. But at this point, people were saying, is Juwan Jennings going to win Super Bowl MVP? So then the Chiefs, they went down the field, answered with the field goal of their own. Mahomes was getting time on this drive, connected with Justin Watson for 25 yards. And then Butker kicked a 24-yard field goal. So that made it 16-16. 49ers answered. They went down the field. Brock Purdy connected with Juwan Jennings for a 23-yard pass play. They got into field goal range, and Jake Moody kicked a 53-yard field goal. So the Chiefs, all they had to do was get a field goal, and Mahomes, they got into field goal range, and Butker kicked a 29-yard field goal. And this game went to overtime, which this game now has become the second Super Bowl to go into overtime. The first one was obviously the Falcons-Patriots game from 2016. So the Niners, they got the ball, and this was actually the first game with the new overtime rules. So each team would possess the ball. Even if you score a touchdown, the Niners didn't score a touchdown, but if they did, the Chiefs would have got the ball, and they would have had a chance to answer. The only way the game would have ended is if the Chiefs would have got like a pick six or something. But the Niners, they got the ball. They went down the field. They can only get 3. So at that point, you kind of knew that wasn't good because you could tell both defenses were getting tired as the game went on. And, so the Chiefs, they went down the field. We almost went into double overtime because when they scored the game-winning touchdown, that was basically when time was expiring in overtime. But, the Chiefs went 13 plays, 75 yards, almost 7.5 minutes of time possession. And Patrick Mahomes connected with McCole Hardman for a 3-yard touchdown, and that was the game. The Chiefs won 25-22. My takeaways from the game, so I thought the 49ers defense came out and played really well. They were not giving up big chunk plays early. They were getting pressure on Mahomes early, because if you go back to the AFC Championship game, the Ravens really weren't getting to Mahomes, but the Niners were. That pass rush was getting to him early. And I thought that, both quarterbacks played well. I thought in the beginning they were trying to get the, a little bit of the rust off from, being off for 2 weeks. But you knew it was a matter of time before the Chiefs got it going, and they did in the second half. I thought Brock Purdy played well. You can't pin the loss on him. But at the same time, when you're going for 3, in overtime, you can't do that against the Chiefs, but they had to. So it was, that was just unfortunate for them. But because if you remember, when they got the touchdown drive to Juwan Jennings, there was a 4th down play they converted with George Kittle, And it was weird because Jim Nantz was like, "Oh, I don't think he got it," and it was like, "I think he did get it." So it was just very strange that Jim Nantz thought he was short. And again, my camera is acting up, so I'm just gonna fix that really quickly while we keep talking about the Super Bowl here. Yeah, I don't know what is going on with my camera, but because I fixed it before we were going to air, but of course, it just decides to act up on me again, like it likes to for some reason. But yeah, so George Kittle gets that first down. Juwan Jennings gets a touchdown. But yeah, like I said, at one point you thought that Juwan Jennings maybe would get Super Bowl MVP, but that ended up not being the case. It was Mahomes, which we will talk about in the next segment. But yeah, the 49ers had a couple of injuries in this. Well, a few injuries in this game. First of all, Dre Greenlaw, running out onto the field, and he ends up falling down and getting carted off the field. And now it's confirmed that he tore his Achilles, which was that was a huge blow for the Niners defense. Again, and that was something that I just was hoping for, that we did not have to deal with injuries. But of course that happens, because they came back from commercial break, and they're showing what happened when the Niners defense was running out onto the field, and Dre Greenlaw just runs out onto the field awkwardly and lands on the ground, and yeah, he has to get carted off, and yeah, it's confirmed that he tore his Achilles, which was just awful news for the Niners. And you saw Fred Warner's reaction. He had his hands on his head. I just couldn't believe it. So it's just devastating news for the Niners. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery, but that's just not what you want in that game. And then also, and these guys came back into the game, Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. Deebo Samuel is dealing with a hamstring injury, and George Kittle, because I saw at one point he was going to the locker room, and so he left the game with the shoulder injury, but then he came back in. Yeah, because George Kittle really did not do much in this game. But yeah, it just it was another tough loss for the 49ers in this game. And also, I mean, the other thing too is, in overtime when they had to kick the field goal, Brock Purdy had pressure in his face, but if he had just a little bit more time, Brandon Ayuk was wide open in the end zone for a touchdown. But Purdy didn't see him because he's got, the Chiefs are bringing a full-out blitz, and he had to get rid of it. And, they had to settle for 3. And then Mahomes went right down the field. But, yeah, it just, the Super Bowl got off to a slow start, but we had a very exciting finish. But I just feel for the 49ers and their players and their fans, because they just keep getting to this point and they keep falling short. And it's like, when are they ever going to have their chance? But on the other side, it's the same story. It's that head coach, it's that team, it's that quarterback. They just continue to get it done, and they're officially a dynasty. What we're seeing is incredible with this team, and they even said it after the game. They're looking for more. They're still hungry. They still want to keep winning. And now they're already talking about a three-peat. So, but we got a long way to go before that. But still, I mean, it was a great game, a great finish. Both defenses played well, and that's really what it came down to. Is both defenses just got tired at the end. But everybody's talking about Kyle Shanahan blowing yet another double-digit lead. Mahomes coming back from another double-digit lead. It's the same storylines. This 49ers team is still great. It's just, and you know what? I'm happy that Brock Purdy didn't lose this game for them. He did what he was supposed to do. And you saw a lot of McCaffrey. That was what the game plan was, is run it with Christian McCaffrey. He got 20 carries in this game. I mean, you could tell he was, gassed at the end too. So we'll run through the stats. So for the 49ers, Brock Purdy went 23 of 38, 255 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. Got sacked once. Juwan Jennings had a pass play. That was the McCaffrey touchdown for 21 yards. So McCaffrey had 22 carries for 80 yards. Then he was also the leading receiver at 8 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk had 3 for 49. Juwan Jennings had 4 for 42 and a touchdown. Deebo Samuel 3 for 33. Kyle Juszczyk had 2 for 31. Ray McLeod had 1 for 19. Chris Conley had 1 for 18. George Kittle, 2 receptions for 4 yards. I was surprised. I thought he would have had a bigger game. I know a lot of people thought he was going to have a big game, but it just didn't happen. Niners had 3 sacks in the game. Jake Moody went 3 for 3 with field goals, 1 for 2 with the extra point. Obviously, the one that was blocked was big in the game. But also, the other thing, too, the turning point in the game, really, because, again, the 49ers defense was doing a great job. And what happens? Chiefs punt, they muff the punt, put the Chiefs right in 49ers territory, and on the first play, Mahomes connects with Valdez-Scantling. I mean, you can't do that. And I mean, they were lucky that, the McCaffrey fumble didn't lead to any points. But, the 49ers, that's going to beat you. That's going to cost you. And, that play and the Jake Moody blocked field goal, or blocked extra point, that ended up costing them. And, you can't have that happen against the Chiefs because they're going to capitalize on it. And that's exactly what happened. Especially on the muffed punt. And, I mean, it's hard to get back to this point. But the Chiefs, they've now made it to, back-to-back Super Bowls, and they've won back-to-back Super Bowls now, which is something that I know Kelsey and them were talking about, getting back to this point because they had a chance to do that a couple of years ago, and, they obviously lost to the Bucs, but now they got the job done, and now, again, they're looking to repeat as champions again for next year. And this is a Chiefs squad that struggled throughout the regular season, but they got back to this point. And, they win again, and listen, they're going to be the team to beat again next year. And they should be better next year because they got to surround Mahomes with more talent in terms of the wide receivers. You still got that defense. Kelsey is still gonna be back, and you hope that he's going to be healthier for next year. I mean, he was great in these playoffs. If they could figure out this wide receiver core, because obviously they got Rashee Rice, who was solid for them this year in his first season. But you just got to surround it with more talent, and they're going to be even better next year. So, I mean, right now we're witnessing greatness with this team, whether you like it or not. I mean, the cuts to Taylor Swift were constant. Which you figured was going to happen. I just felt like they dialed it up last night because it was literally everything. I mean, Mahomes had a couple of big runs in the game. And actually, speaking of that, I didn't even go through the Chiefs stats. That's my fault. But yeah, they cut to Taylor Swift a lot. Let's go through the Chiefs stats. So Mahomes went 34 of 46, 333 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. The Chiefs ran the ball for 130 yards in total. Mahomes 66 yards. He was their leading rusher. Pacheco had 59. Kelsey 9 for 93. Again, had a quiet first half, but he got it going in the second half. I thought he was going to score the game-winning touchdown, at the end of regulation, because it looked like there was nobody there when he was cutting across. But no, they stopped him, and they were able to get off at least one play before they had to kick the game-tying field goal to go into overtime. But so he got it going. McCole Hardman 3 for 57 and a touchdown, the game-winning touchdown. Justin Watson 3 for 54. Rashee Rice 6 for 39. Pacheco 6 for 33. Noah Gray 2 for 22. Valdez-Scantling 3 for 20. Jared McKinnon 2 for 15. And he had a big catch too in the game as well. That was to set up the game-tying field goal because the 49ers were bringing it, and Mahomes was able to dump it off to him for a first down. But, I mean, listen, it was a great game. Got off to a slow start, but, again, great finish. And, the Chiefs are Super Bowl champions. So we're going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we will continue to discuss this game by talking about Patrick Mahomes winning his 3rd Super Bowl MVP. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.